Shalom, Israel. Grace and blessings from God the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ be unto you all. Praises to the Most High that we made it another week learning the Word. And, of course, giving all praises to the Heavenly Father in the name of His only begotten Son, and we do so by His Holy Ghost. With that being said, I do want to check and make sure everything's functioning properly. Let me check YouTube first. Where are we at on YouTube? Are we live? We appear to be live. Let me check YouTube first. Okay, all praises to the Most High. We're live on YouTube. Let me check Facebook as well. Let me check Facebook. Are we live on Facebook? With that being said, I do want to check. It would appear so. It would appear so. So let me just go ahead and cut the sound off. Throw this over here. And I'll go ahead and bring this down. And we can get started. All right. So as y'all can see from the title this week, the wisdom from Solomon, not to be confused with the wisdom of Solomon, which is the book in the Apocrypha. We're not going to be going through all of that book this week, bits and pieces here and there of all of Solomon's writings. I want to do what I was kind of on pace to do, on track to do, which is basically cover all the prophets in the scriptures and talk about them, talk about whether it be like their personal history, but also like the meaning and the general summary, the general overview of their writings. I did that with Job. I did that with David. So we made it to Solomon. So I want to get into Solomon a bit, and a lot of this has already been covered in Bible History 101 when talking about the guy, but again, like the man historically. But I want to get into the wisdom from him, what we can learn from not only his testimony, his story, but also his writings. So as we do every week here on Learning the Word, 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 15. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So that's what we're always trying to do. Not only are we trying to prove ourselves unto God, that's the first thing, all right? But once, or I should say on your journey to doing that, you should be rightly dividing the word of truth, all right? So from there, let's start with 2 Samuel chapter 5. This is when the scriptures first mention Solomon in 2 Samuel 5, and starting with verse 12. This is where Solomon is first mentioned. And David perceived that the Lord had established him king over Israel, and that he had exalted his kingdom for his people Israel's sake. And David took him more concubines and wives out of Jerusalem after he was come from Hebron. And there were yet sons and daughters born to David, and these be the names of those that were born unto him in Jerusalem: Shemua, and Shobab, and Nathan, and Solomon, Ibhar also, and Elishua, and Nepheg, and Japhia, and Elishama, and Eliada, and Eliphalet. All right, so David, of course, we're starting with the reign of David. That's when Solomon was born into. Solomon was born into not only the reign of David, but born in Jerusalem, which was David's second capital city. He reigned initially in Hebron for 7 years. Then he reigned in Jerusalem for 33 years, right? So this is just generally saying Solomon was born in Jerusalem when David was in Jerusalem. So the specific details around his birth, though, let's get into that. In 2 Samuel chapter 12, and just some context here, and we talk about this in the Sure Mercies of David, as far as when David had committed adultery, and then he had the guy murdered, Uriah the Hittite. He had him murdered to try to cover it up. But of course, the Most High found him out. He had gotten Bathsheba pregnant through adultery. All right, that was the wife of Uriah, was Bathsheba. He had gotten her pregnant through this adultery, and murdered Uriah to try to cover it up. So this child that was born through this adulterous act didn't survive, right? He died as an infant, or the baby, he or she, died as an infant, all right? And now we pick up with verse 24 here in 2 Samuel chapter 12. And David comforted Bathsheba his wife, and went in unto her and lay with her. Right? So at this point, they are married. All right, because as soon as David had Uriah murdered, he went and married this woman to try to cover up the fact that this was, adultery in the first place. But that baby didn't survive. After that baby died, now David is comforting his mourning wife at this point, and she bare a son, and he called his name Solomon, meaning peaceable. And the Lord loved him. And he sent by the hand of Nathan the prophet, and he called his name Jedediah because of the Lord, right? That means beloved of the Lord. Excuse me. Right? That's why it says the Lord loved him here. How did David know that the Lord loved him? Because Nathan the prophet came and said, hey, the Lord loves this child. That's why he called him Jedediah instead of Solomon. All right? So, from there, in 1 Chronicles, let's get to 1 Chronicles chapter 28. We're fast forwarding to the next that we hear of Solomon in the Chronicles instead of the Kings. We'll be jumping back and forth, mostly in the Chronicles at first and then to the Kings. In 1 Chronicles 28, it covers the same history. The book of the Kings and the book of the Chronicles covers the same history. In 1 Chronicles 28, starting with 1, and David assembled all the princes of Israel, the princes of the tribes and the captains of the companies that ministered to the king by course, and the captains over the thousands and captains over the hundreds, and stewards over all the substance and possession of the king and of his sons, with the officers and with the mighty men, with all the valiant men unto Jerusalem. Right. So David called everyone to Jerusalem, all the chief, as I said, all the princes of Israel. All right, all the men of note, all the people of note, all the worthy people, all the people in like offices of governmental positions and things like that, military rank. He called them all to Jerusalem. Then David the king stood up upon his feet and said, hear me, my brethren and my people. As for me, I had in my heart to build a house of rest for the ark of the covenant of the Lord and for the footstool of our God, and had made ready for the building. But God said unto me, thou shalt not build a house for my name, because thou hast been a man of war and hast shed blood. Howbeit the Lord God of Israel chose me before all the house of my father to be king over Israel forever. For he had chosen Judah to be the ruler, and of the house of Judah the house of my father, and among the sons of my father he liked me to make me king over all Israel. Right? So David is saying, hey, look, I wanted to build a temple. God told me he couldn't. Even though he chose me, I've been a bloody man. All right? I've shed much blood. And of all my sons, for the Lord hath given me many sons, he had chosen Solomon my son to sit upon the throne of the kingdom of the Lord over Israel. All right? That's what a lot of people don't realize as far as the kingdom of the Lord was here on earth established at one point. And the kingdom of the Lord is always over Israel. It's going to be the same thing in Christ's kingdom. All right? But as far as that kingdom that was around 1,000 years before Christ, Solomon was the heir to David. He was the rightful heir to David. And he said unto me, Solomon thy son, he shall build my house and my courts. For I have chosen him to be my son, and I will be his father. You see that right there? So Solomon was called the son of God. All right? Understand that. Moreover, I will establish his kingdom forever, if he be constant to do my commandments and my judgments as at this day. Right? So if he continues in the commandments the way that he was there, all right, the way that Solomon was keeping the commandments of God there, he said he would establish his kingdom forever. Now, therefore, in the sight of all Israel, the congregation of the Lord, and in the audience of our God, keep and seek for all the commandments of the Lord your God, that you may possess this good land and leave it for an inheritance for your children after you forever. Right? Because that is that's the goal, right? As far as that was the game plan, was that the people, from the rulers down to the peasants, if you want to call the people that, from the rulers to the common folk, if everybody kept the commandments of God, he would have been with us forever. All right? And thou, Solomon, my son, know thou the God of thy father, and serve him with a perfect heart and with a willing mind. That's heavy right there. With a perfect heart and with a willing mind. For the Lord searcheth all hearts and understandeth all the imaginations of the thoughts. If thou seek him, he will be found of thee. Right? The same thing that Christ said, if ye seek, ye shall find. But if thou forsake him, he will cast thee off forever. Understand that. That's how God deals. He deals with things in perpetuity, if you want to call it that. He deals with things eternally. He deals with things forever. All right? You make your choices, you live your life, that's going to stick with you forever. All right? Take heed now, for the Lord had chosen thee to build a house for the sanctuary. Be strong and do it. All right? So, we'll keep reading right here. We'll keep reading. Then David gave to Solomon his son the pattern of the porch, and of the houses thereof, and of the treasures thereof, and of the upper chambers thereof, of the inner parlors thereof, of the place of the mercy seat, and the pattern of all that he had by the Spirit of the courts of the house of the Lord, and of all the chambers round about, and of the treasuries of the house of God, and of the treasuries of the dedicated things. Right? So, understand this, that Solomon had a big responsibility on his shoulders, right? David had already drawn up the blueprints. He had a mind to do this, right? And the Lord said, hey, I'm gonna show you how to do it right. And he give him the blueprints, and we're not necessarily going to read all of this, but it goes on to say, like, all the instruments, right? For the candlestick, everything, all right? And it goes on to say, gold for the pattern of the chariot of the cherubims, right? So you got all these different, he supplied all the, like, gold for the vessels, all the gold for, this and that, right? All the brass, all the silver, right? He already dedicated these things to the temple. Even though he couldn't build it, David, he couldn't build it. Most High told him not to. Yet he provided the resources for these things, right? Most of the resources. All this said David, the Lord made me to understand in writing by his hand upon me, even all the works of this pattern, right? Give him the blueprints, give him all of this. It was just charged with Solomon to do this thing, all right? Big responsibility, huge responsibility as far as like trying to build a house for God, all right? And we read this in 1 Kings 8 as far as when we did that breakdown a couple weeks ago during the Feast of Tabernacles. That Solomon understood that, the entire universe, everything that has been created is, of the Lord. So, like, there's no place that could contain him, right? So, it's really a offering, so to speak. It's an offering unto God to say, hey, here's a place for you. This is the best that we could do. Would you please honor this offering? And the Lord does eventually, as far as make his habitation in the temple. Again, we read about that in 1 Kings 8. We're not going to go over that again. Verse 20. And David said to Solomon his son, be strong and of good courage and do it. Fear not, nor be dismayed. See, this is a heavy responsibility. Some weaker men, some lesser men would have been afraid of this, right? Would have been afraid of this responsibility. For the Lord God, even my God, will be with thee. He said, look, God's going to accomplish it. You just have to do the work. He will not fail thee nor forsake thee until thou hast finished all the work for the service of the house of the Lord. And behold, the courses of the priests and the Levites, even they shall be with thee for all the service of the house of God. He said, look, I got the priests and the Levites lined up. They're going to do their jobs as far as maintaining it, as far as the sacrifices, all that kind of stuff. And there shall be with thee for all manner of workmanship, every willing, skillful man, for any manner of service. Also the princes and all the people will be holy at thy commandment. He said, look, you got all the people, you have all the resources, you have the blueprints. All you have to do is do the work. Bring it all together, like the way that like a director would make a movie, right? The director don't actually film it usually. The director don't hold the lights. The director is just orchestrating everything, right? Telling everybody he's the leader, he's the manager of the operation, all right? That's what Solomon has to do here. All right, let's go to the next chapter. In 1 Chronicles 29, we'll jump to verse 23. Scroll down a little too much. Verse 23. Then Solomon sat on the throne of the Lord as king instead of David his father and prospered. And all Israel obeyed him, right? So Solomon succeeds David, all right? And all the princes and the mighty men and all the sons likewise of King David submitted themselves unto Solomon the king. All right. So at this point, Solomon is made king. He is he is being bowed down to, being submitted to by all of the princes after Adonijah had been killed. You read about that in 1 Kings 1, I want to say, maybe 2. And the Lord magnified Solomon exceedingly in the sight of all Israel, and bestowed upon him such royal majesty as had not been on any king before him in Israel. You see that right there. So the splendor and the majesty of Solomon's kingdom exceeded that of any other kingdom. All right. That was before or since. All right. So this is in 2 Chronicles. I want to get this about Solomon's dream. All right. And what Solomon desired more than anything. Very, very important. 2 Chronicles 1:1. And Solomon the son of David was strengthened in his kingdom, and the Lord his God was with him, and magnified him exceedingly. Then Solomon spake unto all Israel, to the captains of thousands and of hundreds, and to the judges, and to every governor in all Israel, the chief of the fathers. So Solomon and all the congregation with him went to the high place that was at Gibeon. For there was the tabernacle of the congregation of God, which Moses the servant of the Lord had made in the wilderness. But the ark of God had David brought up from Kirjath-jearim to the place which David had prepared for it. For he had pitched a tent for it at Jerusalem. Right? So you still had this like carryover from the time of the judges here, where everything was kind of in different places. Things weren't like brought together, right? Because Jerusalem wasn't chosen to be like the royal city, the capital city of Israel until 7 years into David's reign. He reigned 40 years. So and it wasn't the mind of David to necessarily bring all those things together until the temple was prepared, right? And the Most High told him hold up on the temple until Solomon takes the throne, right? So it says, verse 5. Moreover, the brazen altar that Bezalel the son of Uri the son of Hur had made, he put before the tabernacle of the Lord. And Solomon and the congregation sought unto it. And Solomon went up thither to the brazen altar before the Lord, which was at the tabernacle of the congregation, and offered 1,000 burnt offerings upon it. Right? So Solomon has all these lamb, all these cattle, all these clean meats, and he's sacrificing on the brazen altar. In that night did God appear unto Solomon and said unto him, Ask what I shall give thee. And Solomon said unto God, Thou hast showed great mercy unto David my father, and hast made me to reign in his stead. So I do just want to point out, the Most High, he appeared to Solomon in a dream saying, hey, look, nobody comes to me and offers 1,000 burnt offerings and doesn't want something. Right? So what is it that you want? So Solomon said unto God, Thou hast showed great mercy unto David my father, and hast made me to reign in his stead. Now, O Lord God, let thy promise unto David my father be established. For thou hast made me king over a people like the dust of the earth in multitude. And we'll get that here in a minute, as far as millions upon millions of people. Give me now wisdom and knowledge, that I may go out and come in before this people. For who can judge this thy people that is so great? Right, so Solomon, again, the weight that was on his shoulders here. He just took the throne. He just, succeeded his father David, as far as, David has died. Solomon is now officially the king, right? First thing that he does, or at least the first thing recorded, he goes to Gibeon, sacrifice unto the Lord. The Lord said, hey, what you want? And again, the weight, dare I say, burden that's on the shoulders of Solomon here, that's been tasked to build a house for God, that he may dwell on the earth with men. It's something that he does not know how to deal with, as far as literally does not have the wisdom, knowledge, and experience to try to pull something like this off, right? And it's the same with ruling the people. He's seen his dad rule, right? But Solomon, he's never been out to war. He's never, had to lead the people in that sense. So he does not know how to, judge or discern or rule over the people in this manner, right? And this is millions of people that we're talking about, right? So he said, I would love to have wisdom and knowledge so I know how to deal with these things that are placed before me. And God said to Solomon, because this was in thy heart, and thou hast not asked riches, wealth, or honor, nor the life of thine enemies, neither yet hast asked long life, but hast asked wisdom and knowledge for thyself, that thou may judge my people over whom I have made thee king. Right? So, the Most High, he's kind of taken aback by this, as in like he really appreciates and he really likes this answer, or this question rather, as far as, for wisdom. He loves this request, all right? Because most people, most anybody else in that situation, and probably myself included in that, because I don't know that I would have asked for wisdom and knowledge in that situation. Maybe not riches, that's not really my thing. One of these other things, sure, like honor or whatever, but not Solomon. That's not his mentality. His mentality was, how can I better and even make the best of this opportunity to judge the people in righteousness, right? He did not ask for something out of selfishness. He asked for something in righteousness, in humility, right? Saying, look, I don't know how to do this. Could you show me how to do this? Could you give me the wisdom and knowledge so that I can know how to do this properly, right? It's a fascinating request. Wisdom and knowledge is granted unto thee, and I will give thee riches, wealth, and honor, such as none of the kings have had that have been before thee. Neither shall there any after thee have the like. You see that right there. So nobody has ever been as rich, wealthy, and honorable as Solomon since. No one was before him. No one was as wise and knowledgeable since or before him, as far as king. Then Solomon came from his journey to the high place that was at Gibeon, to Jerusalem, from before the tabernacle of the congregation, and reigned over Israel. All right. So I'm jumping down to verse 15 here, just to show the riches that were brought into Israel. And the king made silver and gold at Jerusalem as plenteous as stones, and cedar trees made he as the sycamore trees that are in the vale for abundance. So brought in, better resources, especially silver and gold was in Jerusalem, as it said, as plenteous as stones, right? Like rocks on the ground. That's how silver and gold was, all right? Just everywhere. All right? Just to show a little bit more of that. And let's get 1 Kings chapter 4. 1 Kings chapter 4. We'll start with verse 20. If this thing would speed up a little bit. 1 Kings chapter 4. And verse 20. So you talk about how many the people were. Judah and Israel were many as the sand which is by the sea in multitude, eating and drinking and making merry. And everybody was rejoicing during this reign, during this time. All right. And Solomon reigned over all kingdoms from the river unto the land of the Philistines. Right. So from the river, as in from the Euphrates, unto the land of the Philistines, which is like Gaza. And unto the border of Egypt, right? So down into like the Nile area. They brought presents and served Solomon all the days of his life. Right, so the promise that was made to Abraham, if y'all remember the class we did on the fathers, Abraham was told that his descendants, the chosen people, the Israelites, would reign, or the land that was given to the chosen people, given to God's people, was from the Nile to the Euphrates, all right? And that is, Solomon's kingdom was from the Nile to the Euphrates. And we're going to get into how it extends so much more than that as well. So jumping down to verse 29. It says, and God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding exceeding much, and largeness of heart, right? Big brain. And even like largeness of heart as in like empathy, right? Even as the sand that is on the seashore, right? That's the abundance. And Solomon's wisdom excelled the wisdom of all the children of the East country, right? All your like Chinese philosophers and things like that. And all the wisdom of Egypt, all right? So like any kind of like ancient philosophy, ancient teachings, ancient writings, Solomon excelled all of that, all right? For he was wiser than all men, than Ethan the Ezrahite, and Heman, and Chalcol, and Darda, the sons of Mahal. I'm pretty sure these would be wise men that were in Israel, wise Israelites. I'm pretty sure that Ethan the Ezrahite and Heman wrote some psalms. I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. And his fame was in all nations round about. All right. So yeah, I'll keep reading the rest of this. And he spake 3,000 proverbs. Right. So that's the book of Proverbs and then some. And his songs were 1,005. We just have one song of Solomon. All right. He wrote 1,005 of them. All right. And he spake of trees, from the cedar tree that is in Lebanon, even unto the hyssop that springeth out of the wall. He spake also of beasts and of fowl and of creeping things and of fishes, right? So this would be all manner of like biology. He knew biology. And there came of all people to hear the wisdom of Solomon from all the kings of the earth which had heard of his wisdom, all right? So just getting into this just a little bit more, because that talks a little bit about what he knows. This goes into a little bit more detail here in the Wisdom of Solomon in the Apocrypha, chapter 7, starting with verse 17. For he hath given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely to know how the world was made and the operation of the elements, right? So the Most High showed, whether through revelation or by visions, the creation of the world to Solomon, all right? And so, and the operation of the elements, as in like the periodic table. Solomon knew about all of that. All right. The beginning, ending, and midst of the times, right? So he knew about, like in Genesis, he knew about where we're at now as far as the ending, and he knew about the Middle Ages. All right. The alterations of the turning of the sun and the change of seasons, right? So he understood all of that, whether you want to say it's, the machination of the solar system, or the traveling of stars, whatever you want to call it, galaxies, like all that. He knew about all that. He understood all of that. All right. Astronomy is what they call it today. Even like astrophysics is another element to that. The circuits of years and the positions of stars. That's exactly what I was just going into. The natures of living creatures and the furies of wild beasts. The violence of winds and the reasonings of men, right? So the natures of living creatures and the furies of wild beasts, again, that goes into biology. The violence of winds would go into like meteorology, right? And even like navigation. We'll get into that here in a minute, as far as like ocean navigation, ocean currents. All that is connected with like wind currents. And the reasonings of men, that would be your philosophy, your psychology. The diversities of plants and the virtues of roots, that would be like botany, and like even going into like medicines, all right? Going into, what's that called? Like pharmacology, whatever. And all such things as are either secret or manifest, them I know. So everything from like the secret knowledge, the hidden knowledge, hidden wisdom of like the occults and all that kind of stuff, to common knowledge or common sense. Solomon knew all that, like all the secrets that like these, whether it be scientists or whether it be like these, like I said, these occult practitioners are like trying to hide these secrets of the universe, or whether it be common knowledge, common sense. Solomon had all of that. He knew and understood all of it, all the spectrum. All right. So from there, let's go to 1 Kings chapter 5. Briefly, I just want to touch on, as I had mentioned, like navigation and things like that, but and the full expanse of Solomon's kingdom. I'll touch on what I mean by that. But just briefly, I want to get into the Israelite-Phoenician connection. All right, I've talked about this a lot, extensively in the I believe it was the second part of the full series that I did on all the 12 tribes of Israel and where they're at today. So y'all can go check that out. Full 6 hour long video on the APT channel. But also I talked about this in the Bible History 101. I talked about it a little bit there. Like I said, I did like a full hour and a half long class on the Israelite Phoenician connection. So I'm not going to talk about it too much here. I just want to touch on it, just so we can understand, some of the wisdom that Solomon had. 1 Kings 5, starting with 1. And Hiram, king of Tyre, sent his servants unto Solomon, for he had heard that that they had anointed him king in the room of his father. For Hiram was ever a lover of David, right? And when you read the history about David, I don't necessarily know if we went into this when it comes to the sheer mercies of David, but definitely in Bible History 101, I talked about it, how David went to war with these different factions of Syria, right, in Tyre. And when he would, I think it was Damascus, or maybe it was Hamath that he had conquered, the other parts of Syria would come and congratulate him and thank him, because these different warring factions were warring with each other up there in the north. And I know Tyre is more Lebanon, but still, they were all warring against each other up there in the northern part of the land. All right. So Hiram was ever a lover of David. And Solomon sent to Hiram, saying, Thou knowest how that David my father could not build a house unto the name of the Lord his God, for the wars which were about him on every side, until the Lord put them under the soles of his feet. But now the Lord my God hath given me rest on every side, so that there is neither adversary nor evil occurrent. Right? Solomon, again, his name means peaceable. God give him peace during his reign. And behold, I purpose to build a house unto the name of the Lord my God, as the Lord spake unto David my father, saying, Thy son, whom I will set upon thy throne in thy room, he shall build a house unto my name. Now therefore command thou that they hew me cedar trees out of Lebanon, and my servants shall be with thy servants, and unto thee will I give hire for thy servants, according to all that thou shalt appoint. For thou knowest that there is not among us any that can skill to hew timber like unto the Sidonians. Right? So this is how the Israelite-Phoenician connection first came about. It was all, as he said here, my servant shall be with thy servants. Right? The Israelites will be with these Phoenicians, will be with these Canaanites, and specifically the Phoenician descent, the Sidonian descent of Canaan, and they'll work together. All right. And it was to build the temple. That was the first project, the first big project the Israelite Phoenicians worked on, right? And it came to pass when Hiram heard the words of Solomon that he rejoiced greatly and said, Blessed be the Lord this day, which hath given unto David a wise son over this great people. And Hiram sent to Solomon, saying, I have considered the things which thou sent to me for, and I will do all thy desire concerning timber of cedar and concerning timber of fir. My servant shall bring them down from Lebanon unto the sea. And I will convey them by sea in floats into the place that thou shalt appoint me, and will cause them to be discharged there, and thou shalt receive them, and thou shalt accomplish my desire in giving food for my household. So Hiram gave Solomon cedar trees and fir trees according to all his desire, and Solomon gave Hiram 20,000 measures of wheat for food to his household, and 20 measures of pure oil. Thus gave Solomon to Hiram year by year, and the Lord gave Solomon wisdom, as he promised him. And there was peace between Hiram and Solomon, and they two made a league together, right? What is eventually referred to as the brotherly covenant that the Canaanites broke, according to the prophet Amos. But at this time, there was a covenant there, as I said. There was a league together, right? This is the beginning of the Israelite-Phoenician connection, all right? So initially, like I said, their first great project that they did together was building the temple of God. And I just want to show that real quick, just to show that the temple got built under this regime. So this is 1 Kings 7:51. So was ended all the work that King Solomon made for the house of the Lord. Right? And you read chapter 7, as you can see here, it's 51 verses talking about all the different things that were accomplished as far as what was in the temple itself. And Solomon brought in the things which David his father had dedicated, even the silver and the gold and the vessels that he put among the treasures of the house of the Lord, as we were reading in 1 Chronicles 28. All right. So from there, let's also talk about some more things that this Israelite-Phoenician connection did. Is in 1 Kings chapter 9 and verse 26. as far as their nautical capabilities. That was the things about the Phoenicians. Now, the king of Tyre, that was on land, what they called, I believe, Greater Zidon. I could be mistaken there. But he had control of the forest of Lebanon, which had the best cedar trees, right? But the Phoenicians in general, which is like Lesser Zidon, they also had control of, which was an island just off the coast of Lebanon, all right? And they had the greatest naval capabilities, if you want to say that. So in 1 Kings chapter 9 and 26, certainly the best for exploration, the best navy for exploration. Yeah, so down here at the bottom, 1 Kings 9 and 26, and King Solomon made a navy of ships in Ezion-Geber. I guess you could say Ezion-Geber, however you want to pronounce it. I always say Ezion-Geber. But it's, as it says right here, which is beside Elath on the shore of the Red Sea. All right? I'll show it on a map real quick, but I've talked about it a lot on here. So if y'all know where the Red Sea is, then y'all know where this is at. Let me go to maps real quick. Y'all forgive me where are we at? Here we go. Under maps. So here's the, it's going to show where Elath is. Right, so there's Elath, as you can see, right there in the Gulf of, what does that say? Aqaba? That's what it says. So there's the Red Sea. As you can see, there's Elath that's talking about. Ezion-Geber is like right next to it, like right here. I just want to zoom out real quick just to show y'all where the Red Sea goes. All right, just zoom out a little bit with a different map, more modern map. So you see how the Red Sea, so Ezion-Geber would be like right up here. See how the Red Sea just kind of comes down throughout the, what's that say, the Gulf of Aden, and it shoots you out into the Arabian Sea, into the Indian Ocean. All right. Again, I'll zoom out again on a different map so we can see it. The Peters projection world map. All right, a little bit more accurate than the Mercator. As you can see, right here, the Red Sea shoots out into the Indian Ocean, right? So let's go back to the scriptures as it says. So King Solomon made a navy of ships in Ezion-Geber, which is beside Elath, on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom, right? And we saw there on the first map that I showed, it showed the land of Edom. And Hiram sent in the navy his servants, shipmen that had knowledge of the sea, right, Phoenicians, with the servants of Solomon, with Israelites. And they came to Ophir and fetched from thence gold, 420 talents, and brought it to King Solomon, right? So Ophir, if you don't know this, write this down. Ophir is India. Specifically, I believe it's the, I always mess this word up, but I'm pretty sure it's the Karnataka province of India. The Karnataka province is about right there. You see, I would shoot you out right here. That's where they were going to. That's where they were going to in Ophir. All right, that's Ophir. India is Ophir. All right, South Asia. All right, so let's get back to it. In chapter 10 and where's that? 11, verse 11. Chapter 10 and verse 11 here in 1 Kings. It says, and the navy also of Hiram that brought gold from Ophir brought in from Ophir great plenty of almug trees. These almug trees are sandalwood or red sandalwood. You can only find it in South Asia. It's actually native to like Myanmar and those type of places, but it's been in India for a long, long time. Over 3,000, I think like 3,500 years it's been in India. All right. Brought in from Ophir great plenty of almug trees and precious stones. And the king made of the almug trees pillars for the house of the Lord, and for the king's house harps also, and psalteries for singers, right? So they would use that wood, that very precious wood, that expensive wood, for, as I said, harps, psalteries, and pillars. There came no such almond trees, nor were seen unto this day, right? Because they were expensive trees, all right? You couldn't just get them anywhere, all right? So jumping down to verse 21, it says, and all King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None were of silver. It was nothing accounted of in the days of Solomon. It was nothing to have, as we read earlier, silver and gold was pretty much just lying around in the streets in those days, all right? Because, as it says here, for the king had at sea a navy of Tarshish with the navy of Aram. So you had the navy of Aram, which was the Phoenicians going out of Ezion-Geber, going over there to Ophir, going over there to India, bringing stuff back and forth, mostly gold, but also almond trees and precious stones, all right? But you also had a navy of Tarshish, right? If you look into this Tarshish, one of the one of the descendants of Japhet, Tarshish is usually associated with Spain, all right? But also it could be Sardinia or Sicily, or one of the islands of the Mediterranean. But the point is, it's Mediterranean. It's an outpost in the Mediterranean, all right? That's the point. So not only you had the navy coming out of Ezion-Geber, which which had access to South Asia, all right? But also in Solomon's time, you had a navy that was going throughout the Mediterranean. And throughout the Mediterranean, you control what? Europe and Africa, North Africa, all right? And look at these things that they bring in. Once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish bringing gold. So they would bring gold as well, and silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. Now, peacocks you can maybe get, from a few different places. Ivory and apes, though, you can only get both those things from Africa, all right? I suppose you could say you could get it from India as well, because you have elephants over there as well. But this navy of Tarshish shows that it's Mediterranean, right? That means it would have to be from Africa, all right? So you had, in Solomon's time, he had complete control over the entire world. Direct and immediate control of all the land from the Nile to the Euphrates, as was promised Abraham. But through his navies, through this Israelite-Phoenician connection, he had control and navigation and influence all over the entire world, all right? In Europe, Asia, and Africa, all right? Had travel everywhere, navigation everywhere, all right? Nautical exploration everywhere, all right? So from there, it wasn't all sunshine and roses, so to speak, all right? It wasn't all, Solomon only did good and never sinned or anything like that. And 1 Kings 11, and starting with 1, but King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites. Of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you. For surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. You see that right there? So what the Most High specifically said not to do concerning the other nations, Solomon did that. All right? He married the strange women. Did it say strange right here? He does in some of his texts, and we'll get to that later. But it says of the nations. Oh yeah, it does say strange women. He loved many strange women. He married many strange women. All right? And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. And his wives turned away his heart. All right? What does it mean by that? Verse 4, for it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods. And his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. Right? So David had sinned in his life, sure. But he never turned to idolatry. Right? He never turned away from God in that sense. He never worshipped anything else other than the Most High. All right? Solomon, you can't say the same for. Solomon did worship other gods. So for Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord as did David his father. Then did Solomon build a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, and the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burn incense and sacrifice unto other gods. Right. So not only did he, in his curiosity, you could say, worship these other gods, but he also built sanctuaries, churches, temples, whatever you want to call them, for all his wives, and dedicated things to their gods that they worshipped. All right. So we'll keep reading. And the Lord was angry with Solomon because his heart was turned from the Lord God of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice. Right. So I failed to read the second time the Lord appeared unto Solomon. I believe it was in chapter 10. I just skipped over. And had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which the Lord commanded. Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and will give it to thy servant. Notwithstanding, in thy days I will not do it for David thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son. And you read the history, that's exactly what happened in the next chapter over. Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, lost the kingdom. Howbeit, I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen. Right. So you had the northern kingdom split with Jeroboam, but Rehoboam retained the tribe of Benjamin, allied, of course, with the tribe of Judah. And eventually, Jeroboam went down his wicked route. This is not the class for that. We'll talk about that some other time. But with Solomon, we see that these strange women caused him to sin. And we see this here in Nehemiah 13. Nehemiah says such things. It was always the blot on Solomon's name that these strange women caused him to turn away from God. All right. In Nehemiah 13 and verse 26. 26. It says, did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? Yet among many nations was there no king like him, who was beloved of his God, and God made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, even him did outlandish women cause to sin. Shall we then hearken unto you to do all this great evil, to transgress against our God in marrying strange wives? You see that right there. So Nehemiah called that an evil thing. When an Israelite marries somebody who's not an Israelite, all right, it's an evil thing. All right, it's against our God, as it says here, transgresses against our God. That's what that is. All right. So from there, I do just want to point out that that's not the end of Solomon's story. When you read his writings, he greatly regretted doing this thing. All right, he's seen how it does not turn out well for you when you marry these strange women like this. When you marry, not only, it'd be one thing if he had one, heathen wife who turned away his heart. He had hundreds of heathen women bending his ear. All right, Proverbs 5, start with 1. He says, my son, attend unto my wisdom, and bow thine ear to my understanding. He said, please listen up, that thou mayest regard discretion, and that thy lips may keep knowledge. For the lips of a strange woman drop as a honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil, but her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. So he said, look, I know they talk sweet. They talk sweet at first. He said, but look, it's death. Her feet go down to death. Her steps take hold on hell. He said, they will destroy you. They will be your ruin. Don't marry these strange women, lest thou should ponder the path of life. Her ways are movable, that thou cannot know them. You see right there, he said they're slick. He said these heathen women are slick. Stay away from them. Hear me now, therefore, all ye children, and depart not from the words of my mouth. Remove thy way far from her, and come not nigh the door of her house. He said, don't go stay with her. Don't go to her house. Lest thou give thine honor unto others, and thy years unto the cruel. You see that right there? So he said, they're cruel. They're cruel women. Lest strangers be filled with thy wealth, and thy labors be in the house of a stranger. You see that right there? He said, you'll be helping out her family who ain't even any kind of relation to you. You'll be helping out her people, which do not think the best of you or for you. All right? And thou mourn at the last, when thy flesh and thy body are consumed. He said, look, they're going to take everything from you. And look at what happens when you have, like, for example, like these black men marry these white women, these famous black men, right? And these wealthy black men marry these white women, and then the white women divorce them, take all their money, right? That's the type of thing that he's talking about, right? And say, how have I hated instruction, and my heart despised reproof? He said, oh, I wish I would have listened. I wish I would have listened to correction, and have not obeyed the voice of my teachers, nor inclined mine ear to them that instructed me. He said, I wish I would have listened. I should have stayed on the right path. I was almost in all evil in the midst of the congregation and assembly. Right? He said, I almost did every evil thing. He said, I've done a lot of evil things, but I almost did every evil thing. Drink waters out of thine own cistern, and running waters out of thine own well. He said, look, stay with your own people. Let thy fountains be dispersed abroad, and rivers of waters in the streets. Let them be only thine own, and not strangers with thee. He said, look, you Israelites, stay with the Israelites. Let thy fountain be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of thy youth. The wife of thy youth is somebody that you grew up with, right? It would be like the woman, the girl from your small town, from your hometown, from your like the girl next door type situation. Like that would be the wife of thy youth. Let her be as the loving hind and pleasant roe. Oh, one thing, high school sweetheart is another term for it. Let her be as the loving hind and pleasant roe. Let her breasts satisfy thee at all times, and be thou ravished always with her love. He said, look, be satisfied with her. Because look at Solomon, he had 1,000 women. He said, look, I wish I would have just been satisfied with one woman. All right? And why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman, and embrace the bosom of a stranger? For the ways of man are before the eyes of the Lord, and he pondereth all his goings. Right? So there's a reason why in Deuteronomy 7, God said, look, don't make marriages with them. Don't make covenants with them. All right? Because they will turn away your heart from following me. All right? For the ways of man are before the eyes of the Lord, and he pondereth all his goings. God only gives us good instruction. He's not going to tell us something and then on down the line, hundreds of years, thousands of years, whatever it may be, say, no, never mind, y'all ain't got to do that. Oh, never mind, I didn't know what I was talking about then. Y'all don't have to worry about that commandment no more. Because that's how people really treat the commandments. You know, I tell people, you know, when they read the commandments, I give them the commandment. I say, hey, look, hear what the scriptures say. And they say, well, no, that's because like back then it was like yada, yada, yada. Like, so? So what? Specifically, I heard at one point somebody talking about tattoos. They say, well, you know, that was a custom of, you know, like the Canaanite gods is to like get a tattoo of that god and like Baal and like that's why he said that. Yeah, so what? He said don't put any marks upon you. He didn't get specific with it. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to tell us something that doesn't apply to us now as far as a general commandment. All right? Same thing with like Deuteronomy 7. It specifically is talking about the Canaanites, yeah. But then we read about what happened with Solomon, and then Nehemiah said, look, it's an evil thing to transgress against the Lord in that manner of marrying strange wives. And he wasn't even talking about Canaanites. He was talking about Philistines and who else? Ammonites and Moabites. And you look what happened with Solomon. He married Edomites, Ammonites, Moabites, Egyptians. He married everybody. And it tore him up. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. And these strange women who, again, not Israelites, are going to turn you away from following the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's really that simple. All right? His own iniquities shall take the wicked himself. You see that right there? You reap what you sow. If you're going against what God said, guess what? His judgment's going to fall upon you. That's the reason why he told us not to do it. All right? So that we would not bring death upon ourselves. And he shall be holden with the cords of his sins. He shall die without instruction, and in the greatness of his folly he shall go astray. Right? So there's more on this for sure. Like Proverbs 7. I didn't even really get a chance to go into Proverbs 7. It says pretty much the same thing. I'll read it a couple verses, but I'm not going to read the whole thing like I did here in Proverbs 5. But it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Proverbs 7, starting with 1. It says, my son, keep my words and lay up my commandments with thee. Keep my commandments and live, and my law is the apple of thine eye. All right, bind them upon thy fingers, write them upon the table of thy heart. Say unto wisdom, thou art my sister, and call understanding thy kinswoman, that they may keep thee from the strange woman, from the stranger which flattereth with her words. You see it right there? So, he said, look, keep the commandments, keep wisdom, keep understanding, and that will keep you from the strange woman, right? These strange women, these heathen women, which will try to get with you, all right? From there, I want to get Ecclesiastes. Saying the same thing, but in different words, as far as how he repented, how he regretted his actions later in life. Ecclesiastes 1, starting with verse 1, it says, the words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. We just read that Solomon. Vanity of vanities, saith the preacher. Vanity of vanities. All is vanity. He said, everything is meaningless. All is of nothing worth. Jumping down to verse 12. Why did he have this outlook on life? I, the preacher, was king over Israel and Jerusalem, and I gave my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all things that are done under heaven. This sore travail hath God given to the sons of man to be exercised therewith. Right? So he said, look, that's our task that God has given us, that we must search out and work for wisdom and knowledge. I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and vexation of spirit. He said, look, it's only going to worry you. It's only going to be of nothing worth, right? That's what vanity is, meaningless. That which is crooked cannot be made straight, and that which is wanting cannot be numbered, right? That which is lacking. He said, look, there's a lot of injustices in the world, all right? And you can't make them right. I communed with my own heart, saying, lo, I am come to great estate, and have gotten more wisdom than all they that have been before me in Jerusalem. Yea, my heart had great experience of wisdom and knowledge, and I gave my heart to know wisdom, and to know madness and folly. You see that right there? So he said, look, I wanted to search out the knowledge of everything. I wanted to know the wisdom of everything, right? Why are the good things good, and why are the bad things bad? I wanted to know it all right? That's what he's saying here. I perceive that this also is vexation of spirit. He said it's just troublesome. All right. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow. All right. So the more information you have, the more concerned you're going to be about everything. Just look at everybody today, right? You know all the news stories at your fingertips. So everybody has to have an opinion on everything, right? So everybody is concerned about everything. Right? Everybody's concerned about Ukraine. Everybody's concerned about Gaza. Everybody's concerned about this, concerned about that. All right? From there, I do want to get Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 4, because this is exactly describing what happened with Solomon. All right? Now, he's speaking in general. Here in Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 4 and verse 12. He's speaking in general, but this is his story. All right? And actually, specifically, he's talking about Enoch and what could have happened if Enoch was not translated. But this general statement is what happened with Solomon. For the bewitching of naughtiness doth obscure things that are honest, right? So Solomon, in all honesty, sincerely wanted wisdom, wanted knowledge, right? That's not a bad thing, all right? And the wandering of concupiscence doth undermine the simple mind, right? So his curiosity, his wondering, all right, and his lust undermined him, all right? Because it's very simple, it's very silly, very dumb, very stupid to say, I want to know why the bad things are bad, so I'm going to do all the bad things. That's dumb. That's simple. You should just understand that, hey, the bad things are bad for you. You shouldn't want to go that route, right? That's the more wise thing. But that's not what Solomon wanted to know. He wanted to know madness and folly. He wanted to understand it. When the truth is, you can never understand madness. And the only way you're going to understand folly is to be foolish, right? That's not the wise thing. That's a very simple mind, right? So going back to Ecclesiastes, chapter 7. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 7. And we're almost done. We're almost done. But Ecclesiastes chapter 7, and I'll read verse 23, starting with 23. It says, all this have I proved by wisdom. I said, I will be wise, but it was far from me. That which is far off and exceeding deep, who can find it out? I applied my heart to know, and to search, and to seek out wisdom, and the reason of things, and to know the wickedness of folly, even of foolishness and madness. And I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, and her hands as bands. Whoso pleaseth God shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her. You see that right there? So he said, look, I wanted to know about foolishness and madness. He said, guess what? Guess what I found out? That these strange women, these heathen women, these wicked women, hey, they're worse than death. He said, whoever wants to please God, you stay away from him. All right? That's what he said. He said, but the sinner shall be taken by her, right? As we read in Wisdom of Solomon chapter 4, right? The wandering of concupiscence, your lust. If you're just driven by lust, guess what? You're going to be ruined by these type of women. All right? That's not all women, by the way, but it was all the women that Solomon had, for sure. All right? Verse 27, it says, behold, I have found this out, saith the preacher, counting one by one to find out the account, which yet my soul seeketh, but I find not. One man among 1,000 have I found, but a woman among all those have I not found. So he's looking for somebody with wisdom, somebody with knowledge and understanding. He said, I counted one by one. And when it comes to men, the men that I counted in my survey, in my in my data, in my research, he said, I found one among 1,000 that actually had wisdom, that actually had knowledge and understanding. Right? But of all those 1,000 women that I had, I didn't find any of them with knowledge and understanding. Right? So he went to even the Israelite women that he had. He said, okay, what you about? Okay, that's nothing. He goes on to these dang Moabite women that he had. He said, what you got? Oh, this other guy? What's that about? Oh, that's nothing. But he searched these things out. He said, okay, I don't know anything about the worship of Chemosh. Let me try that out. Oh, that's nothing. So he ended up regretted these things. He said there's no wisdom in the worship of Milcom and Chemosh and like all these Ashtoreth. He says there's no wisdom in all of that. All right. Lo, this only have I found, that God hath made man upright, but they have sought out many inventions. So first of all, I mean, looking at the inventions today, the technology today, it's the opposite of upright. Just want to throw that out there. But just looking at Solomon specifically, God made him upright. He started out his life as with privilege, for sure, as a prince, growing up with the wise father David, right? With his wise father, who taught him about the commandments of God, who showed him the blueprints that he needed to build the temple of God, which Solomon did, right? And he lived his life in wisdom and knowledge, keeping the commandments of God, keeping the laws of God. God made him upright, put him in the perfect situation. But then he sought out the many inventions, the madness, the folly, the wickedness, right? But as you read, especially Ecclesiastes, it would seem that Ecclesiastes was the last book that Solomon wrote. And you read in Ecclesiastes how he basically talking about like, hey, his whole life has been kind of worthless because he, sought out this madness and this folly. And in a way, he's saying, Ecclesiastes can be pretty dark, but he's saying in a way everything's meaningless, right? And yeah, in a way it is. In Ecclesiastes 12 and verse 13, but this is how he ends it. Ecclesiastes 12, 13 and 14. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter, right? So he said, of all that I've searched out, all the wisdom, all the knowledge that I found, what's the end of it all? Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. That's the meaning of life. That's why we were put here on this earth, to fear God and keep his commandments. That's what it's all about. All right? For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. Right? So he said, this is what I found through all my research, all my searching for knowledge and wisdom and understanding, is that fear God, keep his commandments, because he's going to judge us all. So you want him to look on us favorably. You want him to look upon you favorably instead of to your destruction. All right? Look upon me for good and not for, the evil that I've done, right? That's how you want him to look at you. All right? So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and close it out with Mark 14. When it comes to Solomon's story, and I don't know if y'all can tell, but I'm feeling like a lot of drainage and like a little sickly. Lord's will, he can clear that up real quick. But when it comes to Solomon, his story is that of very high highs and very low lows. Not as low as, say, like Manasseh, who was king in Judah, but like, he turned his back on God for a while. It doesn't necessarily say how long that was, but we know by his writings that towards the end of his life, he began to regret all the evil things that he did and repent for it. But anyway, Mark 14, starting with verse 3. And being in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at meat, there came a woman having an alabaster box of ointment of spikenard very precious. And she brake the box and poured it on his head. And there were some that had indignation within themselves and said, why was this waste of ointment made? For it might have been sold for more than 300 pence and have been given to the poor. And they murmured against her. And Jesus said, let her alone, why trouble ye her? She hath wrought a good work on me. For ye have the poor with you always, and whensoever ye will, ye may do them good, but me ye have not always. She hath done what she could. She has come aforehand to anoint my body to the burying. Verily I say unto you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached throughout the whole world, this also that she hath done shall be spoken of for a memorial of her. So with that, all praises to the Most High for that sister for doing a wonderful thing for our Lord. I hope y'all learned something, and I say shalom. Let God be magnified.